It's like radio stations aren't run by FEMA. FEMA equipment by law is wired in as the last piece of equipment that the transmission goes into the tower since 1996 with the emergency alert system. Everything goes through that FEMA control box that's controlled by shortwave, where they can just take over all the transmissions of TV and radio with an audible signal. Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, so run through some more of what's in these documents, and then your eloquent challenging of this.
Well, since our site is about publicizing information about technological spying, which we've branched into, anything that deals with use of high technology to spy on people is our main meat. So this fits right into that. And we get documents regularly, as do other sites, about this, because the high technology stuff often is not disclosed about how effective it is, whether it's through browsing or through chat rooms or through various kinds of things that are very popular now, the Facebook sites and things like that. So Google takes a lot of hits for this, but there are dozens of other sites that are doing the same thing, but all of them have to run through the telecom system. So it's the telecoms that have the real control over all this. And so these agencies go directly to the people who run the technology. And so Google, for example, couldn't do what it's doing without these vast technological infrastructure. And so that these agencies go directly to the source of the machines where this is taking place.
And, of course, the specs under federal law of the telecoms are NSA approved and designed. Cybersecurity Act really expands that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. They think that this heavy use of digital communication is a threat to national security. We think that's bombast. It's certainly not true.
Yeah, they're just getting psychological algorithms to track and manipulate the population and protect their money laundering, drug dealing, as Sybil Edmonds, FBI translator, whistleblower, running al-Qaeda up until the day of the attacks. She's having to listen to this. Child kidnapping rings, that's come out in mainstream news. Halliburton, DynCorp, just the most criminal organizations the planet's ever seen. Hit teams, just the worst of the worst. But I'm ranting here. You're now challenging this. You're pointing out that they don't have a copyright on this and it's public interest.
That's correct. Is that the information is in the public interest to see what the telecoms are doing, which are public-oriented organizations, and they make a big deal about protecting privacy and providing service, and they do not like to talk about selling the service covertly to government agencies, and they're all doing it. By the way, some of them do publish this information, but not all, and so that what they try to keep quiet is the money side of it. That they're doing it is no secret, but it's how much money they're making that is of interest in what they're trying to hide. And
yeah,
so
I wanted to bring...
And so we think that needs to be known.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring that up to you earlier. It's somewhere here in my stack. I was showing the USA Today from 5 years ago. Missouri tracks scofflaws via pizza delivery database, and then it admits nationwide all the big pizza chains, when you call to get a pizza, run your name, your credit card, your location through a criminal database. And even for small fines, you get an arrest, not a pizza. And that's just an example of how everything is being wired in to this system. We're going to come back and discuss that with our guest, the webmaster, the head guy, John Young, at cryptome.org. Stay with us. We are back live. John Young, cryptome.org, cryptome.org. Yahoo's lawyers say you take that down, how we're charging fees for everybody's personal information. Where do you go from here? I mean, you again eloquently explained to them that this is a public service, that you have posted this information. Where do you go from here?
As people look into this, is to start asking that every telecom company set up a privacy oversight board to look into their policies and decide what is confidential and what is for business reasons, what is in the public interest, so that we don't have these gray areas of the telecom making their own decision without the public being involved. This is good democratic process to oversee these giant firms. Some of them have set these up. Yahoo was burned a couple of years ago for revealing information about a Chinese blogger who was arrested and thrown in jail. They set up a privacy board to deal with international issues, but they don't have a privacy board dealing with U.S. issues. So we think that's what should be done, and that's what we proposed to Yahoo as a way out of their current dilemma with this document we posted. We happen to think the public should be more involved in what corporate policy is and not have other corporate people sit on these boards who themselves may be involved in the same kind of activity. We need disinterested, impartial people looking at this. So we think that's a good idea because privacy in the digital world right now is greatly at risk because every country that has a large digital infrastructure are passing laws to invade people's privacy more in the use of the internet and telephone systems.
Well, a lot of northern European countries like Finland and others brag that the government just listens to almost all the calls and tells the people they're doing it. And Google 3 years ago said, we have patents for the camera and microphone in the computers. We're going to listen to you in real time and tailor advertising for you. I mean, they're really throwing it in our face. And now Eric Schmidt on CNBC said, hey, you shouldn't be doing anything you're ashamed of, and you don't deserve any privacy, basically. Have you seen that video clip yet?
Well, I have, and of course, just like to say, I think this is nonsense, that this is more of the bombast put out by corporations to say that we have nothing to hide, when in fact they do. That's the cover story. They're acting like they don't have anything to hide, but they do have it to hide, so they seem to be taking responsibility when in fact they're not. And Google is doing that, and they all use the same technique. In fact, they're encouraged to take that technique to seem to be complying, but they're not.
And now they're coming in with really the end of net neutrality with this Internet 2, where they're going to not upgrade the older hubs, force you onto their new systems. Microsoft's new operating systems have a thumbprint where you'll have to biometrically get on the web and register yourself. What is Cryptome seeing in that area?
Well, as we think that it's important to watch what these folks are doing. You know, they're extremely astute with fantastic lobbyists to shape legislation in their own direction. That's why we think oversight of what they're doing needs to be involve the public and not leave it to government. They've now got government eating out of their hands through lobbying firms and by campaign contributions. We think we need impartial panels overlooking the public's use of these communication services because they're so astute now that they can pull this flim-flam through the government. Because, and one of the things they do, and back-scratching each other, they give government secret services for this favorable treatment. That's what we'd like to expose.
And there's no doubt from your research, as I read the site weekly, that just the amount of surveillance and control is systemic. I mean, it's just everything's being surveilled, everything's being recorded, and government has gone from saying, oh, we're not engaged in warrantless wiretaps to being caught lying to just wide open. Yeah, we're listening to everything. Get used to it.
Well, one of the techniques that they've evolved is that since we have a right to get access to government information through FOIA to some extent, they now use this thing called confidential business information to withhold information about the contractors to government who are running most of these systems. Government does not run these systems, corporations do. And they use this term confidential business information to withhold information, and that's allowed under the law. That's what Chris Salogian smoked out, is that they were hiding this data using this hack term, confidential business information. Now, that was legislated to protect government's complicity in government spying. And that's the back-scratching that's going on. So they spy for commercial purposes, but then they sell governmental spying to the government and using the same technology, the same systems, and that's the back-scratching that's going on. Now, people who work for these companies are the ones who tell us about this. We don't work there, but the people inside who are running these systems are very disturbed by this duplicity. And Google is the giant among these people. Microsoft is another. These great server farms that are being set up around the world now, vast vacuums of everything that's passing through nearly all communication systems.
And when the San Antonio media tries to go to the new NSA base and just ask questions, the police come out and threaten to arrest them. All right, finishing up with John Young of Cryptome.org. You're going to beat this Yahoo situation, I'm sure. Plus, they're coming after you. Will only make everybody go get the documents, mirror it in thousands of places. I mean, can they really do anything legally? I guess they can sue you, but then that'll just bring more attention to their profiting from Big Brother.
Yeah, and what they try to do is bluff and intimidate people. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has a very large collection of documents where they faked claims of copyright to bamboozle people who don't know the law. And if anyone cares about this, they should go to the EFF site to read about it. So we think they're bluffing here. Nonetheless, they can sue. They're a large corporation. Fine. Sue us.
Well, we appreciate your courage, Mr. Young. And how do people support Cryptome.org?
Well, they can read our site. It's a public library. And if they feel like taking a look at our archive, we offer that on the site. But mainly this is a public service. And so if you want to give support EFF.
Electronic Frontier Foundation.
That's correct.
That just does an amazing job. Thank you so much, Mr. Young.
And thank you, Alex.
Appreciate you.
And thanks for your show.
You bet. Thank you. Okay.